This episode is brought to you by Katana, a DeFi-first chain built for deep liquidity and high yield. You'll be hearing more from them later in the show. Nothing said on Lightspeed is a recommendation to buy or sell any investments or products. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and the views expressed by anyone on the show are solely their opinions, not financial advice or necessarily the views of Blockworks. Our hosts, guests, and the Blockworks team may hold positions in the company's funds or projects discussed. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Lightspeed, a very special live edition of Lightspeed. I'm your host, Jack Kubanek, joined today by my good friend Ryan Connor from Blockworks Research. We're here to react to the breaking news of the morning, which is Pump Fund officially confirming its long-rumored ICO and token launch. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on this emergency pod with me.
Pleasure to be on, man.
So count your days. Twitch, Facebook, and I forget the third one, and TikTok. The pump.fun is here. They this morning kind of announced their officially confirmed that their ICO would be happening, I believe, on Saturday. Blockworks first reported this around a month ago, and a lot of those details were then confirmed today. I think they're raising a little more than $1 billion. If my math was correct, and but it is at the $4 billion valuation. There's a couple interesting details here. I think one that I actually didn't know, or maybe I did, but I forgot that I knew it, is that private and public investors got the same terms. So private investors did put in $720 million at a $4 billion valuation, which is quite surprising to me. Boccaccio, what are you doing here?
I was invited. Somebody messaged me and said, I don't have anybody to come on. I have to deal with Ryan Connor only.
Thank you so much. Saving me from getting Ryan Connored. I was just kind of introing the details, but good to have you here, Boccaccio. He's somehow going to turn this into a hyper-liquid conversation, I worry. But
I didn't bring it up. You brought it up.
But yeah, I guess I'll kick it over to Ryan. I don't know how much you've dove into the tweet thread and so forth, but what's just your initial take seeing the Pump Fund ICO?
Yeah, I think the first and most obvious, very interesting thing is that the number raised from investors appears to be much higher than, we thought a while back. I think the first number, like in the rumor mill that you heard, was they were raising 100 from investors. Then it got up to 300, and then I heard 400, and now it appears from the comms that the number is 720, right? If you take that 18% and over the 4 billion. Yeah, look, Boccaccio is surprised as well.
I think 400 mil this round though, right? And then the others are from previous rounds.
Is that the case?
I think so. I think they had the rumors that I have heard is that we're talking a lot about rumors. The rumors that I have heard is that they originally went for 200 mil for this round, and then they just got oversubscribed.
But did you read the recent tweet thread?
I did not. I can't read. I did not read that one.
Yeah, I mean, that would imply, I think, that they raised 720.
Well, yeah, so it's totally 1 trillion supply, 18% at 0.4 of a cent. And they 18% went to the public, I believe.
15 to public, yeah.
15 to public, 18 to private investors. Danny, welcome to the show. Good to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm like now outnumbered by the Blockworks, the 0x Research pod, but we're still under the Lightspeed banner, baby. That's all that matters. But let's not get too into the weeds here. Ryan, you're surprised by how much Pump Fund was able to raise. I'm a bit surprised as well. I felt like, especially on the private side, that I think a lot of it was heavily in the rumor mill that Boccaccio references. Like, is 4 billion FDV too high for this thing? Would you want to buy it? If you want to 2x your investment as a private investor, you'll have to see it go up to 8 billion FDV, right? So are you surprised they were able to raise 700 million? Are you surprised by that fact?
I think that if you had asked me 8 months ago, I would have been surprised. I'm even a little surprised now, I guess. I think we were operating under the assumption that 99% of crypto was short just the idea of pump fund, and that it had durability and sustainability. And I think that the thing that changed that was the drawdown post Libra coin. I think that's when, you saw the institutions come out. There were plenty of people dancing on Pump's grave saying that, okay, this is over. This is the last time we'll see meme coins. It's going to be a new thing this cycle. And the opposite happened. It remained a top 10. I think it was like top 10 at worst earning app, and now back either number 1 or number 3, depending on the day that you look at it. So it showed durability. And I think that changed what a lot of institutions thought about the app.
Mm-hmm. True. As far as just the token launch itself, I'll throw this to Boccaccio or Danny, but do you think that so when any other big token comes out, it seems like you get this big airdrop, as soon as trading is made available, it sells off, or maybe it doesn't, but then you have some kind of weird market maker agreement, and at some point you see a huge dump because just giving a bunch of supply to the public for free is not a great way to facilitate efficient price discovery, basically. Do you think that the fact that this is an ICO, I was thinking about it this morning, and it's, if I put money into the pump token at 4 billion FDV, I don't want to sell it at under 4 billion FDV because that's just, I never doubt what crypto investors will do, but you would think that would be an irrational move to make. Whereas if I get an airdrop, I have no attachment, I'll sell it at any price. So do you foresee the ICO of it all kind of changing the outcomes for the pump token relative to other token launches?
I have just like one thing to say here, because if you have like ever done your first, like the first angel check you did, and then you probably get really, really stressed out afterwards. You're like, oh, actually, like I didn't really want to do this thing. So I imagine I don't think that it sets like a thing. If you offer coins to retail, I don't know if their brain is going to think like, oh, like the 4 bill is a cap. I'm not going to sell the 4 bill. I imagine that's probably not very relevant for them. I do like the idea of an ICO, though. I think doing public sales that retail can participate in is a great idea. I think you want to get in as many people. Like, we can clearly see, Ryan is going to get upset, but we can clearly see that people like rallying around coins and people like rallying around platforms. I don't think you can disagree with that. And I think giving people the opportunity and the chance to rally around a platform by offering them into the round is a good idea. I don't know if, like, honestly, like a lot of the times you'll hear me argue for airdrops, and obviously, like, I like airdrops. I think it lets retail come in, or like users come in and be paid for testing out the product. But the ICO is a much better way to do that for the founder side as well, because you can do vesting. I think you can do vesting on airdrops, but typically it's not handled very, like, people say no, or they get upset about it. Like, you can do vesting, and
people need skin in the game.
Yeah,
to buy in at the ICO. Yeah, skin in the game helps. I don't disagree with that.
I think one of the big thoughts that I have, and I've been thinking a lot from Pump's perspective on this, and less so from the market perspective, is like people, and I see the comments now, like, what the hell are you going to do with $2 billion? I think for them, and it comes down to like the market that they seem like they really want to enter here, which is this getting into this like new crypto X live streaming arrangement, is that that's a very daunting task from my experience in looking at the live streaming world, where Twitch is a massive giant. YouTube is a massive company that entered that space and has struggled to only capture like 20 to 25% of that market, despite being, having billions at their disposal. And when you look at like Kick, backed by Stake, the online casino company, which there's maybe a parallel there to Pump Fun, they're doing 9-figure contracts to live streamers to like attempt to draw some audience onto their platform. And a lot of the people they're targeting are, they're like these degen personalities that like do slots on their live stream, and their audience will watch that in fascination or whatever. And maybe some of those audience members then go and use the online casino themselves. and they make some money off of that, or they like grow their brand through that means. It feels like a loss leader though. So just from like the dollar figure that they're raising, to me, it seems like almost out of a necessity. Like if they want this to work, like they need the live streaming thing to be really compelling and competitive. They're going to need to like either snipe other creators from other platforms or like get new like crypto adjacent, like, you know, live streamers or content creators onto the platform that maybe are, you know, doing things on YouTube today. And I don't think that will be free. I think it'll cost a lot of money. They've been adjusting what the tokenomics like look like. You know, there's the creator rewards kind of part of the token piece, but I don't know that that's necessarily enough. And so, you know, I think when you factor these things in, like kind of competing with trading apps, trading bots, competing with the other launch pads, competing with live streaming platforms, like I could see them either just needing to build a lot of stuff, either or acquire other teams, and that would be very expensive, or just pay a lot of money to get, you know, large personalities to come in. And so I can see the value for that.
Thanks to Katana for sponsoring this episode. Looking for the next big chain? Katana isn't yet another new general purpose blockchain. It's purpose-built for DeFi users and focused on giving the best experience possible. It does this by sustainably generating deep liquidity and high yield. If your assets are sitting idle, they're dead. Katana is built from the ground up with DeFi mechanics to bring your bags back to life. All you have to do is bridge over and Katana does the rest of the work for you. Incubated by Polygon Labs and GSR, Katana launches with a notable ecosystem of primitives, assets, and partners, including Morpho, Sushi, Vertex, Lombard, Chainlink, and Yearn. Be early to Katana. Join the pre-deposit campaign before mainnet opens at the end of this month. Deposit funds and open rewards filled with randomized amounts of CAT tokens. There's also a CryptoPunk and other exclusive NFTs hidden for some lucky depositors. Thanks again to Katana. As always, investments in blockchain technology involve risk. Terms and conditions apply. Do your own research.
Yeah, Danny, what do you think about so you could argue, I think, that Pump has a different kind of creator in mind, that one that hasn't kind of come on to live streaming yet. So like perhaps those acquisition costs are not as high. So like, for example, Gainsey, right? Like I've been really enjoying that podcast and live stream, and you know, he's crypto native, right? Like leaning into that crypto native and DGen audience. I don't know. It's not obvious to me that all the personalities that you could see, like the first 100, it's not obvious to me that they're all that they're all on existing platforms. Like you can actually just lean into perhaps an untapped audience. I don't know, you know the market better than me though. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think like that audience and like that market today, it's very niche, right? Like I don't think that you know, get a 10x outcome here by getting, you know, these crypto live streamers that get 200 views onto your live streaming platform. Like they need a much bigger win, like looking down the road, like longer term. You know, you want to end up eventually with I don't know if you're going to recognize any of these names, Ryan, but like the Kai Cenats, the Speeds, the what have yous that get 6-figure viewers every day. You know, they have 100,000 people watching their live stream for like 4, 6, 8, 10 hours every single day. And that's where the value is, more so than I think. There could be a niche here, but you know, we don't really see it yet. And I think, you know, you have a point, like maybe it becomes something more because of what Pump offers. But I just think historically, if you look at the live stream space, there's been a trend here where like a new company tries to get in and they say, oh man, like we'll just, you know, we'll hire some people and we'll get them over and like we'll get their viewers to come with them. And that's very expensive. And it doesn't seem to have any sort of like a trickle effect. They really struggle to get more and more viewers. Like that snowball doesn't really happen. And I think it really only happened for YouTube because what they already had was a video platform. And I think people who made videos realized, well, I can also just live stream now. And, you know, the algorithm is going to promote those live streams for me. So maybe I should do some live streams as well.
Yeah. Also, I mean, people always posted VODs on YouTube as well. So that was a huge thing for them. Like you could just go only one platform. I agree with Danny. The thing is also that streaming changes so quickly. Like maybe 3 years ago, just chatting style of streaming wasn't that popular. versus now it's like that's all it is. It's not like as gaming focused streaming. We'll see. I think they need to sign probably a big name, and I think that's what they'll use the money for. I think 3% incentives is probably enough to pull in the crypto creators. I imagine Fred Guy and stuff will also go on there, by the way. Like, imagine there's some pretty big deals that are going to happen or have already happened, and I just haven't started yet. We'll see. But
speaking of live streams, thank you everyone for joining. It's fun to see some comments here. If you're watching with us, I can see your comments in the side panel here. Let us know what you think about the pump ICO. Is it a fair FDV? Is it unfair? Maybe we should just be streaming this on Pump Fund, guys. We could be the 0x Lightspeed token would do numbers.
I would short it. I don't know.
We'd sell it to you much cheaper than 4 billion.
We'd have to argue about if the token price was a fair price or not.
Exactly. It'd be great content. One thing I do want to ask about though, and I guess we got into this backwards a little bit, but I think like when you saw Pump raising $1 billion and now we've seen it's, I guess, a little over $1 billion via this token sale, the question was, what are they going to do with it? And we're talking about them building out their live stream platform. But I want to take a step back and just ask, was that the right move? I sort of tweeted right after the news, their initial tweet was very eye-grabbing, but when I see like, hey, we're dethroning TikTok, Facebook, and Twitch with our new crypto social fi thing, it feels concerning, maybe, on the business side of things. We've just seen so many shots on goal in this area that haven't worked. Pump Fund decisively does work. And I think there's a version of this where you can just say, hey, why not go acquire a small crypto exchange, integrate perps, list new meme coins really fast on your new centralized exchange, and just really double down on like the token trading. So do you think going social, going into this fairly rewarding creators thing that seems to be the messaging Pump is putting out, was that the right direction business wise for them?
I mean, as long as you don't stray away from your actual thing, like if they were going out and build, like think of Zora and then think of Pump Fund, and it's essentially the same product. Like it allows you to create content or whatever as a coin. But Zora and also Farcaster are very decisively just trying to emulate what their counterparts are, like both, I think, Instagram and Twitter in that case, versus like if Pump is just focusing on incorporating elements of these other social media apps, such as like sharing or making it a bit more group chatty or with a timeline or I guess like live streams, etc. That's a very different approach as opposed to what others have done and I think failed to do, because what are we sharing here? There we go. This is not relevant to what I'm saying. Yeah. So I think like let's share. I was like, what is this? I completely lost my train of thought. Who put this up?
We live stream every time Boccaccio is talking. Someone's like, it's time to put some visuals up there.
Very good. Yeah, I think as long as they like keep the main purpose that makes like people appeal to the product, it's fine. They don't need to mess around. Jack, why is
I think it's I think going social makes sense. I think there's a lot of evidence that meme coins are very social, just like shit posting with your friends, and what PvP Trade has done is there's evidence that people want to talk about all the silly things they're doing in the same way that there's like plenty of sports betting podcasts and communities and Barstool Sports exists, and it literally exists just to talk about how bad we all are at gambling, and it's like very fun and entertaining. So I think you want to lean into social. I do think that there's a non-zero chance that we look back on this live streaming thing and we're like, this was so like, why would I want to trade a chart while watching someone talk about a thing? Like it does seem like it could end up quite silly, but you know, there's enough momentum and enough PMF, observable PMF, that I think that the bet makes sense. And you can iterate, the team can iterate.
Yeah, I like, here's what I'll say is I think it's at least an interesting experiment. Like you can see the parallels to existing features on live stream platforms today. You know, there are gambling features on live streams, they're with fake, points, not real money. But streamers will incentivize their audience to like, what do you think the outcome of this video will be? Or what do they'll be watching some other live event, like a match, a game, and put up polls and gambling, opportunities for their chat to say, we're going to vote on the Bulls to win this NBA game or whatever. Things like that exist. So if you can like incorporate actual dollars and tokens into that, maybe there's something there, especially with like a more, financialized audience, which everyone in the trenches and on crypto Twitter certainly is. Maybe there's something there. I think, again, like the big question for me is going to be whether that's something that can, like we see sports betting apps, like those are becoming very prolific, and like sharing trades and other things has become like more and more of a thing. I do wonder though, like if, scrolling TikTok brain rot, if, incorporating like gambling directly into that experience is something that translates to like the billions that do that today, or if it's a smaller market than we're hoping it is. It's very unclear, but I like that they're experimenting with it.
Yeah, I kind of hate the framing of like we're competing with Instagram and TikTok and all that. But also at the same time, like the thing that they can't do is allow people to make money on their platform. It's like the one wedge that a crypto social platform has. And Pump's really the only one leaning into it. Like Warpcast didn't really explicitly do it. Yeah, so I think Friend Tech was a really interesting experiment there, where users of a social platform could make money. So it seems to be the purest play in crypto for like a social play. And again, I think it's a bet worth taking.
Have any of you done any math on just the valuation for this thing? I saw a Masari report, I think, that was like the true value of the Pump token is 9 billion or something, which even then is a 2x, which is like great, but I don't know. Yeah, I wonder with like their revenue, the sense that they may or may not do revenue sharing. I saw Hasib from Dragonfly tweeted today that Pump would be sharing 25% of revenue. I don't know if that's been said publicly, but that seems to be his impression. But like, is this thing worth the price, basically? Not financial advice.
I think it's fair. I wouldn't say that's the cheapest thing on planet Earth, but I think it's fair. You do have some uncertainty with these token and equity structures that are unappealing to a certain class of investors. I don't hate them as much as others, but I do think that there needs to be more clarity with respect to value capture. That being said, I think Pump is one of, they're clearly here for the long term. 12 months ago, I think it was hard to figure that out as a crypto market participant. So, I think they're giving the market a gift, honestly, they could have, imagine another app generated 700 million in revenue in a single year. And then, what would they raise at? They do 10 billion or something like that. They do something ridiculous. They do 20, they do 30. Pump's doing 4 for the token. So I think valuations are coming to reality. And I think that I think it's pretty fair.
What if there was one that did 700 million revenue a year, but it launched at 2 bill and it also airdropped 31%? Would that make you interested? Just curious.
Get this guy off stage, man.
Well,
I think.
Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, I was going to add I'll share a chart this time for real. That's relevant to the conversation.
Every time Boccaccio talks, a chart appears. I'm telling you.
We can look at Pump Fund's revenue, and I pulled up the daily granularity here just to show. I think an important question here that maybe now the market is digesting, and I don't know if you guys mentioned it before I hopped on, but the sort of Launchpad war that's happening, where recently, in the past week, Radium Launch Lab and Bonk Fund kind of sniped away a bunch of it seems like they basically, enticed some of the mass token creators from Pump Fund to move over to their platform. And you see that reflected in some of the past weeks revenue for Pump Fund, where they're looking at, 400 grand a day versus what was, $1.5 million just weeks ago, and had been at that level for a few months. This puts it sort of like below the lowest day that it saw, like back in March when the market was very uncertain at that time. So I think an important question for people looking at this sale is like, what's your forward expectations for like the Launchpad meme coin business of Pump? Like, is this a durable shift? Like, can Radium Launch Lab and Bonk Fund maintain this like new like capture of token creators that they've just kind of pulled off? Or does Pump have like a quick, you know, in another month, are they just going to be right back at their prior runway rate because they have a means to get right back in the game? And I think that's looming.
I didn't realize that, Danny. That's an interesting point. Because I don't know, frankly, when I see the Launchpad Wars stuff, my eyes glaze over a little bit. It feels kind of tiresome. But are you saying that Let's Bonk was able to basically go to these people who are like deploying 100 Pump Fund tokens a day and also sniping them and making money that way and just saying, hey, we'll give you like a better rebate or something, and convincing them to use Let's Bonk, and that's what's been driving the like very sudden switch in rev? Yeah, I see you have the Launchpad revenue. Like that chart is pretty stark. So is that basically what happened in your understanding?
Yeah, so I don't have any specific details on like agreements that they might have made, but you know, members of like, I think someone from the Radium team mentioned like, you know, we've been working hard for the past few months to onboard these creators. And when I think when they say creators, they mean like, you know, the accounts that are making thousands of meme coins.
Yeah.
You know, which I think is largely, you know, it's like algorithmic, right? Like you're creating tokens based on like news and events that happen automatically, because there's money in that. But just getting them to do it on your platform versus the other, and people are just going to trade the things that are viral and meaningful. So it doesn't really matter if it's a pump token or a bonk token. You know, you just want to trade the thing that's going to maybe do a 10x because it's viral. But that's what it seems like has happened. Like, I don't know of any deals, but I mean, this shift has been quite significant. And there's another chart, I'd have to go find it, but Sharples on the data team showed a chart where the top token creators from Pump, there's like a direct inverse correlation in the amount of tokens that they've created on Pump versus created on Bonk Fund in the past week.
For what it's worth, I chatted with the Bonk team and they denied this. So I just want to put that out there that so that no one's like upset with.
Why would they switch?
Well, they denied what? Know? They denied deals, or
they denied deals.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Like I said, I don't know if there's any deals, but you know,
it's like a rebate on fees a deal though. Like, what do you mean by deal?
Yeah, so I clearly didn't go too far into this because I also don't want to be a dick to people who are like taking the time to answer me. But
yeah,
regardless, they saw this as a weakness, right?
Yeah.
If you get the creators, then and they make all the tokens on your platform, then you know there's no reason to use Pump.
Yeah, there is also an argument to be made that some of it could be because like you mentioned, Danny, like the people who are launching the most tokens on Pump moved over to Bonk. And if there's like at least somewhat of organic traction on Bonk, that if people aren't buying that many coins on Pump anymore, if they're just not graduating at the same rate as they used to, you could see creators instead start launching on Bonk because the graduation rate is higher. They see that more people are interested. And anytime a new platform, I mean, just speaking of like experience, anytime there's a new launchpad that launches, you kind of want to buy like, at least I'm buying the first few tokens that I see because it's like one of them could be a winner. So I think maybe they were trying to catch on to that. And then eventually they saw that there was more and more graduation happening, more and more volumes happening, and they decided we'll just keep launching. So it doesn't, there's definitely rebates and some form of like BD work happening on the background. But I don't think it's I imagine it's not purely like BD work, and that they did also get some organic traction.
It's surprising too, because it's like, was Tron's Launchpad not like doing BD? Like I would suspect that Let's Bonk, which I hate is the name of this thing, but is not the first Launchpad to try to offer rebates to draw. Like there's been, you know, a million of these, and this is why when Bonk flipped Pump, I was like, nothing burger. Every like 2 months we hear about the new Launchpad. Me and Ryan did a whole podcast about Believe, which you know, the volumes have shrunk quite a bit since then, and so this is just going to be the same movie another time, but maybe something's different. I don't know.
Well,
I think-
Bonk team is
Well,
so
No, I think it's
guys. Can we
for it,
do the
bud.
raise hand system from now on? So
I'm a little laggy out, man. It's my bad. I'll unmute my mic from now on.
Very
It's
good.
a signal.
Go ahead, Bach. What were you saying?
Like just to Jack, the Bonk is probably the most well-connected team of like within Solana, I imagine, or at least like top 5. So I think their network is probably also a lot better than Ben Pasternak, despite the fact that he's a very cool guy. I don't know if he can pull off the same things that the Bonk guys can.
I think.
And I think
Go ahead. We all have thoughts. Go ahead.
I wouldn't say that the Launchpad stuff is very exciting, Jack. I strong pushback. This is the most exciting sector in crypto. It's where all the money's flowing, and it's you had this one dominant player that made the $500 million more like quicker than anyone, and it needs to develop this front end ecosystem. It hasn't done it, and now you're starting to see the consequences of that on the eve of its like token drop. Like that's pretty interesting. I think it's very exciting.
I want to go back to the data. Shout out to Sharples from the data team, because I think it digs into what Bach said as well about when a new launchpad comes around and you actually kind of want to go there immediately for the initial hype, and you actually see this like when you look at launchpad volume. Like we can see back when LaunchLab launched, there was a little bit of a little tiny little spike there, and then actually when Let's Bog Fun initially launched, it had a little bit of a pump there, and then a bump again like maybe a week later, and it kind of died off in the past month and a half, 2 months. There wasn't much happening there relative to Pump Fun, but this shift was just like the recent 2-3 weeks, like basically from 0 to 100. They went from like no market share to the entire market basically. And then the other part that I was going to show up that I mentioned, where you can see this same thing here, where we have the top Pump Fund token creators. So literally the accounts that are making all these tokens, like we can see that in both of those other events, they actually did the same thing, right? Like they were making fewer tokens on Pump, and they were making more tokens on the Radium Launch Lab product, which is also Bonk Fund by extension. So those are both reflected under the Launch Lab trend. But then in this past week, like just complete flip, like they were doing, 8,000 tokens on Pump Fund, and now they're doing, 6,000, 7,000 tokens on Launch Lab and like 1,000 tokens on Pump Fund. So they're just a complete shift of where they were doing these things.
Interesting. And look, Ryan, I'm not saying that it's not interesting what's going on. I just think that over the past year and a half, so I started writing Lightspeed, in May of 2024. I've written many Pump Fun articles, and it feels like every like once a month, like clockwork, there's some new controversy, there's some new thing that's going to kill Pump. And so when I log on Sunday night and I see, hey, Let's Bonk is past Pump Fun in volume, it reminds me of the Justin Sun Launchpad, the live stream controversy, Believe, like the million other things that were meant to unseat Pump Fun. So I think there's a world where we return to this in 2 weeks and Let's Bonk is just back at pretty marginal volumes relative to Pump Fun, and all the big token creators have switched back. Because I also just think that there are levers that Pump Fun could push if it needed to that it hasn't. So like Bonk can't create a new Bonk, but Pump Fun has Pump. And so if they said, hey, we're creating a points program, why don't you go aggressively farm our platform? I'm not saying it would be the best thing for them to do, but there are levers that people push in crypto that Pump has not pushed, and I think it still has tricks in its bag.
Yeah, I agree. What are you guys' thoughts on, I guess, airdrop amount for Pump Fun?
Do we have details on it? Do we know, or are we speculating?
34% to community, but they haven't announced any form of airdrop. Do you think it comes later and they just push it off a bit more?
I don't know. I think airdrops are dead. I think big fat airdrops are a thing of the past.
Every time someone says 2 months later, they airdrop me a car, so I'm very happy.
I hope it happens, but I think like if you're going to chart the amount, like the amount given per unit of effort, right? It was like very high. And now I think you're going to see the amount given per unit of effort is going to like decrease, meaning that you need to put in a lot of effort to get a meaningful airdrop. And I think these teams, now that there are more long-term teams in the space, they're not going to throw away incentives, because the ones who did threw them away and left. Who did the most recent airdrop? It was very top heavy. I forget who it was.
Was it?
I don't know. There's an airdrop once a week, but the most recent relevant one.
Yeah, it was pretty relevant. I forget what it was.
What kind of protocol?
Yeah, I see someone in the chat. Maybe it's Fragmetric. It was very heavy, top heavy.
Restaking.
I think it was
we love
that one
here.
And smart, because yeah, it's like, why would you want to in the same way a company pays a CEO a lot because their impact is outsized. You want to be really targeted with your incentives.
I do think, to Jack's point though, about they have this lever that they haven't pulled yet, and with this recent shift, maybe the airdrop is not to the users but to the launchers, perhaps, and maybe that's an incentive program, maybe that's an airdrop, maybe that's some kind of ongoing allocation to token creators or something along the likes. But I mean, it's definitely a lever they could pull if they don't have another plan to get, constant token creation right back over to them. I guess I'd be curious, what your guys' thoughts are here. We see more and more actually in this space that teams will just go out and build it. You know what I mean? Like Sui, Aptos, these guys, they don't need to wait around for someone to build them a DA solution or like a gaming thing or this, that, and the other thing, right? They'll just go and launch it. They'll make Walrus. They'll make, I forget what Aptos just announced. They just announced their own. What's it called? Shelby. So they're going down this path of we just need to make all the products. So could Pump just go ahead and make their own algorithmic token generators and get those churning?
I totally agree. And I think that the bigger risk is Axiom. That's the reason why this kind of flip in volume is way more interesting than what happened on Tron. It's more interesting for two reasons. One, there's nothing else to do on Tron. So the common example I give is I keep cash in Camino. Then when I see something I want, I take it out of Camino and I put it into Pump. And then I bet on a stupid token. You can't do that on Tron. So it was kind of obvious as to why everything left. And then, but no, I think this time it's the nature of it's pretty different, I think. And that Axiom has a lot of power here.
I wonder if I'm Pump, do they have regrets that they didn't try to go acquire Trojan, or I'm forgetting some of the other Solana trading bots, but they felt like they had fairly unsophisticated teams maybe that might have been willing to sell to Pump, and a lot of the volume at peak was routing through these trading bots, and then 2 20-year-olds were like, hey, why don't we go through Y Combinator and build a better front end to trade Pump tokens, basically. And now, I mean, Axiom has kind of an owned user base, I would think, at this point. So that feels maybe like a miss for Pump, that they weren't more aggressive in the M&A market sooner. There's probably some regulatory risk involved at that point, but I would I almost wonder if the ship has sailed on some acquisitions in that arena.
I don't really know why they would buy it.
I agree. A Telegram bot? Yeah,
because they're already the most relevant part, and they don't have to constantly ship. The thing with Telegram bots is like Axiom is so difficult to compete with because they're shipping a new update once a week, and they've you have to try to compete with that versus building out your own product line to become the back end of stuff, which I think is unless Axiom, let's say, would go ahead and launch a token launcher / launchpad platform, and then they did better, then we can be like, oh, they made a mistake. But to me, it's I don't know why they would spend the resources, because you're making 800 mil a year on something that you're clearly very good at, and you should try and expand that business instead of being oh, I need to buy this business that's very related to me and that makes a lot of money in itself, but that I have to like spend a lot of development resources on. Probably need to hire another team, and like constantly keep it updated. I don't know. That's my non-business take.
But I do wonder, like, I think it's a fair point. But then when you look out at what's happening and also just consider what Launch Lab is for these other products, like, why couldn't Axiom just create Axiom Launchpad via Radium Launch Lab? And then what value does Pump have if all the end users are on Axiom and they have their own Launchpad and all the token, and they get the token creators on their platform? Like it's like, it doesn't make sense until it does. And I think the same thing kind of applied to Pump Fund. It's like, they didn't need to have Pump Swap or the DEX until they felt like they wanted to at a certain point along the line. But, and, you know, maybe being, you know, Pump the Launchpad plus the DEX didn't make sense on day one, but at a certain point it was like, well, okay, we don't need to give all this money away to Radium. And now it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, do we need to be giving all this money away to Axiom and like these other trading bots? Like, I think we're breaching that threshold here again, where it's like, if we don't do it, then like they'll just take all the customers.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to put together a very compelling like mobile and like desktop experience. I'm excited for that. I think that they know that they have to do that. 50% of the flow comes from Axiom, you know.
I don't have any.
Who's on Axiom right now? What are you guys trading right now?
I actually don't use Axiom.
I use it here and there, but I agree with you, Ryan. Like, I want a good mobile experience as well, because there's a lot of times where a lot of my meme time is spent on my phone. I'm
gonna be the Luddite here and just say I think Telegram bots work perfectly fine for when you're going around and you're just buying memes. Genuinely, I think they work. And on my computer, I want like an actual web app, or I just use Telegram bots again. I never interact with any Solana front end anymore because you just can't get anything through. It makes a lot more sense to use some form of intermediary. And for me, that's Telegram apps. I don't think we're at the mobile app season yet. Ryan, Connor, I apologize, and Daniel. I think we have some time.
I think they have plenty of like traction, and their run rate right now is like incredible enough to where, like, get one engineer and just build it. I don't know, man. It's not going to be that expensive to ship a mobile app. Pump released their little, you know, shitty beta a couple months ago that had like no features, but I can't imagine that took so much effort out of them.
Thanks to Katana for sponsoring this episode. Looking for the next big chain? Katana isn't yet another new general purpose blockchain. It's purpose-built for DeFi users and focused on giving the best experience possible. It does this by sustainably generating deep liquidity and high yield. If your assets are sitting idle, they're dead. Katana is built from the ground up with DeFi mechanics to bring your bags back to life. All you have to do is bridge over, and Katana does the rest of the work for you. Incubated by Polygon Labs and GSR, Katana launches with a notable ecosystem of primitives, assets, and partners, including Morpho, Sushi, Vertex, Lombard, Chainlink, and Yearn. Be early to Katana. Join the pre-deposit campaign before mainnet opens at the end of this month. Deposit funds and open rewards filled with randomized amounts of CAT tokens. There's also a CryptoPunk and other exclusive NFTs hidden for some lucky depositors. Thanks again to Katana. As always, investments in blockchain technology involve risk. Terms and conditions apply. Do your own research. I think there's also just a point to be made here where there's a psychological barrier to actually trading a lot on your phone. I saw, this is like a random call out, but Kraken's L2 posted some promo video of like Tinder for meme coins, where you can swipe right or swipe left on coins and buy or sell them. And I personally just wouldn't want to do that. I sort of, if I'm going to buy meme coins, which I rarely ever do, but it feels like an investment, and I want to feel like I'm getting the best possible price. I'm like, it just, that's computer work. The phone is, well, I use a flip phone, so that I don't do much on my phone. But if I had a smartphone, it would be for TikTok or texting, or like I wouldn't be doing financial things on my phone. And I don't think that you can definancialize crypto enough to where people would want to like spend significant amounts of money in these very consumer appy ways that people are conceptualizing right now.
I think you're making 2 points here that I think are a little disconnected. Like, I know plenty of degens who are willing and able from their phone to like whip 6 figures into a meme coin on chain. And obviously that's disconnected from like scrolling TikTok, but like, I don't think there's anything about the mobile experience. Like Robinhood has found their success starting from mobile only. Like they built the entire trading platform of stocks and options and everything around mobile first, and then didn't release the desktop platform till years later. But I do think you have a great point about like these some of the conceptualized experiences of like, am I going to swipe to trade? Like I go on Tinder and swipe for dates. Like, I don't know. I think some of those, maybe they're zeros, or maybe that's like, we got to be in a way more dystopian place before I'm going to start throwing $100 on random things that I just like swipe through. I don't know that it makes sense for like trading. I don't think that makes sense at all.
I saw that exact same thing. I think that's a zero. Like I think people, the argument here is like, oh, we're moving towards a gambling society. Well, if you talk to gamblers, they think that they have an edge, or they're like trying to participate in a very specific environment. I don't think you can get that with the like, oh, I'm swiping left and right. I think that's also partially why some of the other attempts like Vector.fund didn't do very well, because it tried to create this atmosphere and experience that just people don't want and aren't interested in. So Danny, once again, I completely agree with you.
I thought Vector was cool.
Do you use it?
No.
It's cool. It's a cool app.
Yeah.
Like, they did a great job on the UI. There's Subway Surfers on the back. It's like it's a thing that should make sense. Like it fits all of the general aesthetics that you want, but it's not useful. It's not a useful application. People want to be able to get in earlier than other people. They don't want to like scroll through TikTok to be like, oh, Jack bought this coin and there's Subway Surfers on the back. Who cares?
Yeah, the market today is based around speed and curation, and like Ryan would know from playing with Axiom that like their whole product is just like different feeds to find you the token opportunities. It's like token feeds, it's DEX screener feeds, it's what's trending right now, it's X like Twitter feeds, like you can track accounts, and if they say contract addresses in them, you can auto snipe the token. Like everything is about that right now.
Ryan, do you have a point to make on this? Because I have like a change of subject.
Yeah, infinite scroll doesn't make sense for financial assets, and swiping on Tinder doesn't either. Like the reason that you swipe on Tinder is to judge people, like one after the other. But judging financial assets is different. You actually want to cross compare. And like people sit on Tinder because they want to like look at hot people and like swipe through them. And I don't think people feel the same way about charts. It's not the same game, right? And yeah, like infinite scroll, again, you lose the cross comparison. I think that you can within a broader social app for like degen types or like that's centric to gambling, perhaps you can feed in investment opportunities here and there. But I think that already exists on Twitter. And then you're just a click away from actually executing on the experience. And maybe that changes now that kind of Twitter's kind of slowly going in the direction of financialization. So we'll see.
Look, I would go so far as to question not only whether we should be swiping on meme coins, but whether we should be swiping on Tinder at all. But that is beyond the scope of this conversation. The question I wanted to pose is, I think there's kind of a couple of ways. It's what's the term? Schrodinger's ICO here, I guess. But depending on how you look at it, people are viewing this thing differently, where the probably a lot of the private investors who haven't said they're private investors are tweeting stuff like, this is super bullish for Solana. This is injecting liquidity into the trenches. This is going to like turbocharge trading. And then other people are saying, hey, this is so extractive. Pump Fund is, collected 700 million in revenue, and now they're actually about to hit 800 million. I was looking at the Blockworks dashboard, but and now they're going to raise 1.3 billion more. Why do you need this money? You know, that money should have gone to me, I guess, is the thinking. But you know, putting aside the dumb kind of Twitterverse arguments on this, like, do you think the net effect here is that money rotates out of meme coins or Sol or other things into Pump, or are people actually like onboarding new capital to buy the Pump ICO, and therefore it's sort of net bullish for Solana, I guess? I hated how I asked that question, but Ryan, I'll let you take a stab at it.
I think it's the wrong question. I think that crypto natives tie themselves in pretzels, wondering where the money's going to come from and how much money is coming in versus coming out. Like, do you think that there's a general problem with having too much data when you're making an investment decision? You get into an analysis paralysis, right? Like, is crypto a fixed pie? Is it not a fixed pie? How much money is this app making per day, right? Like, it's probably a little too much granularity, because then you see down days and you panic, right? Instead of observing the more general trend and, you know, certain strategic implications that are more important. So I think it's overthinking it. Just, you know, what's the biggest impact? There's going to be a lot more money in people's pockets, and a team that's, you know, done a fantastic job executing is going to have more cash to do more of the same. So I think it's positive.
Boccaccio, Danny, predictions on the liquidity of it all?
Bach, give your take. You have a take. Come on.
No, I need to think about how I'm going to pose this.
All right.
Disagree with me. You disagree with me. We know you do.
I think, here, Bach, I'll save you for last, and then you can disagree with us. I think the people in this industry, like, or maybe the people on CT, kind of, they index on this point a lot because of the fact that most things aren't worth anything. Most tokens are worth zero. Most of them are memes, even though we pretend that they're not, because they don't make any revenue, even if they're 5 years into their life cycle. And so naturally, like, the bid for that thing might just entirely be like dependent on liquidity conditions. So I guess my point would just be like, there's a real business behind Pump Fund. They make a crap load of money. We've talked about the valuation a little bit. Like, you know, there's question marks. Like, maybe they just lost a bunch of their flow to Bonk Fund, but, you know, you could draw out the investment case for this thing. I think a reasonable investor could. And so I think to that point, like, I don't know, does it draw some liquidity away from other things on Solana that are maybe like less real? Maybe. Does it draw liquidity away from things that are real and have like a bid because they're valued based on their fundamentals? Maybe less so.
Somebody mentioned that we're related in the chat.
That's funny. I think long term it doesn't. It hardly matters though. Like, maybe there's a push away from other things just because it's like such a large token in the immediate term, and like, if people want to bid that, maybe they have to shore up something else. But that's just how markets work. If you want to buy something better, you sell something else and then you buy that other thing, or like you get rid of your cash and you buy the thing. So if it's worth more than something else, then people will sell their other things to buy it.
Or you lever up.
Or you get levered. You pull money from Camino and then you go freaking max long.
Ryan, before Trump launched, if I told you Trump is going to launch, would you say that that's bullish all of the assets on Solana, or bearish all of the assets on Solana?
Yeah, you're pointing out a tail event. It's just so different. Are you saying that Pump's going to hit a $70 billion valuation?
Well, I've always told you that I'm interested in the Pump.Fund token from an investment perspective. Let's not.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. But it was also weekend trading, and it's just such a tail event.
And it wasn't telegraphed, right? Like, I think that's an important piece here, where people have known that the pump sale is coming, so they've had time, if they wanted to make money available. So it's not going to be like suddenly this token is available and everyone is learning about it within the same 3-hour span, and they're like dumping everything they have because the president launched a coin.
are you selling Sol or USDC to buy pump?
Me
Yeah,
or Ryan?
for either of you.
Stable coins.
Okay. Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, stable coins.
Would you have allocated that into other tokens on Solana? Like, I just think it's
No.
okay. That's fair. Like, I think
I get what you're saying. I think that's a good point.
I think
It's a fair point, but Danny's point is also, I think it's the crux of it. Danny made a really good
no.
point.
I just think like if it's worth something, it'll be worth something, and if it's not, then it won't. And like if there's other things that are worthless, like then yeah, maybe people will sell their memes.
I want to be very clear that I think, much like I think like 50% of CT, I think that pump is good value. And I will be like, I'm interested in the pump token, but I also think we shouldn't kid ourselves and say like this won't have effects on the remainder of the Solana ecosystem, because I think it will. Like I imagine it pulls liquidity out. I imagine like the money that could have gone to other tokens might go to pump. I think people will sell Sol to buy pump, but also people will sell other assets to buy pump as well. I think like it's a very attractive. So it's not like purely against Sol. I imagine most of it will be from the Sol ecosystem, but like I just don't think we should lie on the live.
Shouldn't that
I think it's a fair point to an extent. I think my viewpoint is that like on the longer time frame, who cares? Like there was this parasitic argument. Like I think something we could bring up is like there was this parasitic argument about like L2 tokens versus ETH. And there was like a dynamic there, and you know maybe that inhibited money going to ETH because it went to multi-billion L2 coins, but over the long run we get to see what happens.
Yeah, we'll get to say in 4 months this is exactly how we said it played out, and then we'll all be somewhat right, and it'll work out.
Always hedge. You'll never be wrong.
That's what it's all about. Ryan hated that take so much he pieced out. Bach, you bullied him out of the stream.
He didn't want to talk about ETH.
I don't know. I don't see a world where it doesn't have a like Trump token made a lot of people really, really rich. And like the Solana ecosystem still hasn't recovered very, very well from it. Like given that the broader market also has like gone down quite a bit since then. But I mean, there's clearly at least been some repercussions from it. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. Dude, what the hell is he doing?
Who hired this guy?
This is what happens. Ryan Khan, he'll do one more just for the good.
Yeah, he just wants attention.
Hey Ryan, are we good?
Ryan.
Wow, you made it back, man.
I really want to jump into the YouTube chat, but it won't let me. I'm trying to make it work.
Arguing with the YouTube people.
Jack, what do you think about this comment? I feel like it's maybe a good topic to end on, but this new type says it's hard to imagine pump has staying power. You guys proved that only 0.1% of users make money. So how long until all users realize it's a waste of time?
People do astounding things with their money. I think that like you'll just be surprised again and again how people will continue to do things that lose the money. I think like the Ryan Connor argument here is that it's entertainment, the same way that people lose money on sports betting, but continue to bet. In fact, you're not allowed to make money on sports betting. The sports book will ban you if your hit rate is too high. So, it's a casino, and casinos are money-making businesses. I think the one threat to pump that we didn't address that I think about sometimes is the fact that there was a research paper a couple months ago that more than half of all pump token launches are sniped in the same block that they're created in. So we mentioned earlier some of these serial token deployers that Let's Bonk was able to headhunt over to their platform. These people are basically launching, sniping tokens in the same block. You do that enough times, and you have some kind of algorithm set up where a news event happens and you can be quick to launch a meme coin, you will make money. Like those snipes are profitable more often than not. But I think that shatters this illusion of like you're organically in the trenches with all your buddies. And if there's a sense that it's too tilted in favor of the house, so to speak, in the casino, maybe that becomes less interesting to people. But I don't know. At the end of the day, like I think that anyone who has ever bet against Pump Fund since the day it launched has been wrong. So I just am hesitant to do so because I've been burned too many times.
What if this time is different?
What if
something happens this time? No, I think that whole like argument that it isn't like a massive operation, these launching tokens and sniping them, like anybody who doesn't recognize that is stupid, or they're just ignoring it. But I think most people know that. Like Danny, Ryan, Jack, when you buy a token, you don't buy it because you're like, oh, like this is an organic token. You're like, okay, this is relevant right now and it might go up. That's why I'm buying the token. So I don't think that would have any effect on it. I think snipers are part of the game as well. It's just about adjusting to things. Like previously you have to adjust to rugs and liquidity pools, and now it's become less relevant. And some other functions have become more and more relevant. Like if you want permissionless markets and instant listing of tokens and being able to gamble on Grok saying random stuff on Twitter, then you have to deal with the bad actors who also need to make some money. Won't anybody think of the token snipers as well? You know?
Yeah.
It's all true, but it's true in a way that doesn't matter. It just doesn't affect the product experience. And if this is the worst that it's going to be, as we create more methods to like lessen the spread, so to speak, it probably improves over time. And like sports books, have you seen the spreads there? They're insane. Like they're not in your favor, and people still do it because they have 3 hours to burn.
One thing I will say is the only like bad thing for Pump would be not that people stop making money on it. I think most people don't make money on it, and we all know this. But if there's another platform that can give, let's say, like within a 25 to 30% range of the same experience as Pump, but people are making more money on it, like there's more graduation rates, there's more people making more money, it's less toxic or whatever, like the team is using their money to buy back tokens on the platform or whatever, then that's probably more dangerous for Pump than anything else. I don't think the other stuff matters as much.
But then
Danny, I got a question.
I'm just gonna say this all loops back to the token, because then if you're Pump, you say, hey, I'm gonna use my $250 million I have earmarked for community, and I'm just gonna give it to people so that they come back to the platform. So I just, yeah, it's hard to imagine. Like I think this sets up Pump Fund quite nicely, assuming the token launch goes okay.
A much more cost-effective thing would be to just, I don't know, if Pump on their front end, like why don't, like maybe Danny, you know why perhaps this isn't done, but why don't you just filter out tokens that have been sniped and then filter them back in when that ownership changes?
So I do have thoughts on this. I don't think they want to filter them out because they don't care. But I think if you go to like Axiom, that is like the prosumer oriented platform that lets you set filters yourself and say, I don't want to buy tokens that have 30% insider snipe supply because I lose money on them. It makes sense. But I think on Pump, like they don't necessarily want to be opinionated about that. I think they just want anyone to trade the tokens. But right, like if they change that structure, then it completely changes what their platform is, I guess is what I would say. But if they built a prosumer trading application on top of Pump, I think they would definitely want to have that functionality available in the exact same way.
Also, like you could, if you own a substantial part of the flow and people are looking at your feed, your Axiom feed or your Pump feed that shows you the top most recent tokens or whatever, you could really disincentivize bad behavior by, I know it's a cat and mouse game and I know it's hard, but to identify that and filter that out, all of a sudden that bad behavior doesn't make a lot of money anymore.
And they do have, like, Pump has Pump Advanced now, and you can do some of this stuff, and they do, like, they show all that information now on there, not on the native, like, original front end, like the simple feed, but you can see snipers holding, like, dev percent, top 10 holders percentage, that type of stuff. I just think it's about, like, where that information is surfaced and to who. But I also have to imagine, like, I don't know, is how many people are using the Pump Fund home board to buy anything? Is anyone doing that? Like that page, like, you actually have to be on Adderall to, like, be looking at that screen. It's constantly refreshed. Like, you couldn't even click any token because it's refreshed before you even, like, pressed a button.
Yeah.
You got to turn off the, like, bouncy thing.
But that's the whole, it's really fun to look at the bouncy one.
I hate it, man. I hate it.
All right. Because you don't have a iPhone, do you kind of, like, die when you look at really, really, like, TikTok-y things? You just instantly go into...
Well, so like, the flip phone's a little bit of a myth, you know, like, I've done it for, like, 3 of the past 5 months, but then I'll have some reason to switch back to the iPhone for a bit, and then I'm just like, we'll just do a month of this. But my flip phone has Android, so I could trade. Theoretically, I could trade Pump Fund coins on it. I should do that. That'd be a great article. All right, listen.
I wanted to.
I'm asking the questions, Bach.
Wait, one sec.
No.
I want to show you something.
What is that?
It's my phone. I got it after you recommended it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Is it like a dumb phone?
Yeah, it's a dumb phone. I'm gonna actually do this, Jack. They do Signal on this as well, so it might actually be useful for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's it called?
PUNKT. This is not relevant to Pump.Fund, but I think it's good to get it out there. It's pretty cool. You should check it out.
This is my influence is spreading. I feel quite honored. I don't have mine. I have the Cat S22.
Very good.
Very cost effective, but you cannot do. I guess you could do Signal.
You could.
What's your out of 10 rating on it?
But I just switched like a week and a half ago, and I would say it's a 4 because I want to look at my iPhone constantly. So, but I don't know if that's because my brain is so fried or if it's because the phone is fine. Objectively, it's an okay phone.
Yes.
It's just you can't do anything on it, and I forgot that you have to, like, triple click stuff to send messages.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. Embrace it, man. Embrace it. We'll get Danny and Ryan on this train. Look, we all have jobs we got to go do. We've live streamed for long enough, but this has been a fun one. Thank you guys for joining me. First ever Lightspeed live stream. Hopefully folks will listen to this in the feed as well. I don't know what the plans are there. I'm going to conclude with a question because that's what we do here. Boccaccio, you spoke about the 4-month time frame for Pump. Are you guys bullish or bearish on a 4-month time frame post Pump Fund launch? I think that's where I'm going to end it. Bottom line, and then I'll do a little sign off. I can begin. I'm bearish on a 4-month timeline.
Into what? On what token though? On what asset?
On Pump.
Oh.
The reason we're gathered here today, Bach. I just think that 4 billion is a high launch FDV. There's only 49 crypto tokens that have that FDV right now. Maybe Pump can become a top 50 token, but it's not an easy task by any means. There's not a lot of Solana tokens in the top 50. So I'm bearish in a 4-month time span.
Can I do some clarifying questions? Does this mean in 4 months, will it be higher or lower than 4 bill?
Yeah, why 4 months? What's happening in October?
It's that Boccaccio earlier referenced it, and so I latched onto it.
Over the next 3 to 4 months, because
the next 4 months is the end of the year. By 2026. I'll say say higher or lower than launch FDV. By January 1, 2026.
Higher. I'll take any amount of money on this, by the way, for a bet. If there's any listeners, I'll do whatever.
Likewise, higher. Any amount.
Wow. Wow.
Any amount.
Ryan's putting his whole portfolio into pump because he knows it will be higher on
Maybe.
Jan 1. I feel like I'm more torn than I should be, but I just know that like 6-month periods are very wacky in crypto. Like we saw it right from Jan 1 of this year to April or May. Like that was a very wild turn. And now from then to now, I'll say higher as well. Actually, no, I'll say higher. I'm not going to say neutral. That's way harder to hit on.
One thing I want to make sure that we are clarifying is that it's only if the current information that we know about pump is accurate, like nothing changes. And that means the 25% buyback. I mean, no. I have to hedge.
He's hedging.
There's a cost of risk here. Like you're
But Jack, you forgot one thing.
Priced in, Boccaccio.
Before you asked your question, you forgot one thing.
Yeah.
This is our job. So
what is your job?
This stream. Welcome to your job. You're doing your job right now.
I'm doing my job. I guess so. But the thing about streaming is that it's a job that goes along with my other job. But fun doing my job with you guys. It's been a good hour and 10-minute job. Okay, so chat clip that higher or lower segment. We'll return to it on January 1st, 2026. I will dunk on these three fellas for being right and then being wrong. Guys,
I should have said lower just to hedge Jack, because now he wins over the whole research team because of what we said. That's crazy.
Or he has to give us all of his money.
All of my journalist money. Ha ha ha.
I'm taking the phone, bud.
Come take my Cat S22. They don't make them anymore, so it might become valuable. But fellas, Ryan, Boccaccio, Danny, thanks for joining me on the stream today.
Thanks for
having me.
Thank you, everyone who's tuning in with us live. Right, there's over 3,300 of you right now, which is pretty awesome. Drop a G Lightspeed in the chat if you're still watching. If you're still,
don't drop.
It's a live stream, Boccaccio. This is what you got to do. Drop those G Lightspeeds. They're streaming in.
Make sure to follow me on Twitter. It's Salve Boccaccio. SALVEBOCCACCI.
Hit the like button. Hit the bell.
Smash that like button. Chat.
Are we doing tips? Is there a place where they can tip me?
Drop the wallet address.
Send me Addy.
The SEC is going to be getting in touch after this stream. Fellas, I'm going to conclude it there. Thank you so much if you watched today. We hope to see you again on another Lightspeed. If you enjoyed this, please follow Lightspeed Pod HQ on Twitter. You can also follow Boccaccio. You can also follow the rest of these guys. It's all in the show notes. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.